to change the direction of the organization. Change the leader. Leadership ability is always the lid on personal and organizational effectiveness. If a person's leadership is strong, the organization's lid is high. But if it's not, then the organization is limited. That's why in times of trouble, organizations naturally look for new leadership. When the country is experiencing hard times, it elects a new president. When a company is losing money, it hires a new CEO. When a church is floundering, it searches for a new senior pastor. When a sports team keeps losing, it looks for a new head coach. The relationship between leadership and effectiveness is perhaps most evident in sports, where results are immediate and obvious. Within professional sports organizations, the talent on the team is rarely the issue. Just about every team with highly talented players. Just about every team has highly talented players. Leadership is the issue. It starts with the team's owner and continues with the coaches and some key players. When talented teams don't win, examine the leadership. In the little box. Personal and organizational effectiveness is proportionate to the strength of leadership. Wherever you look, you can find smart, talented, successful people who are able to go only so far because of the limitations of their leadership. For example, when Apple got started in the 1970s, Steve Wozniak was the brains behind the Apple computer. His leadership lid was low, but that was not the case for his partner, Steve Jobs. His lid was so high that he built a world-class organization and gave it a 9-digit value. That's the impact of the law of the lid. In the 1980s, I met Don Stephenson, a chairman of Global Hospitality Resources, Inc. of San Diego, California, an international hospitality advisory and consulting firm. Over lunch, I asked him about his organization. Today, he primarily does consulting, but back then, his company took over the management of hotels and resorts that were doing well financially. His company oversaw many excellent facilities, such as La Costa in Southern California. Don said that whenever his people went into organization to take it over, they always started by doing two things. First, they trained all the staff to improve their level of service to the customers, and second, they fired the leader. When he told me that, I was surprised. "You always fire him?" I asked. Every time? "That's right, every time," he said. "Don't you talk to the person first to check him out to see if he's a good leader?" I said. "No," he answered. "If he'd been a good leader, the organization wouldn't be in the mess it's in." And I thought to myself, of course, it's the law of the lid. To reach the highest level of effectiveness, you have to raise the lid. One way or another, the good news is that getting rid of the leader isn't the only way. Just as I teach in conferences that there is a lid, I also teach that you can raise it. But that's the subject of another law of leadership. Applying the law of the lid to your life. List some of your major goals. Try to focus on significant objectives, things that will require a year or longer of your time. List at least 5, but no more than 10 items. Now identify which ones will require the participation or cooperation of other people. For these activities, your leadership ability will greatly impact your effectiveness. Number 2, access your leadership ability. Complete the leadership evaluation in Appendix A at the back of this book to get an idea of your basic leadership ability. Number 3, ask others to rate your leadership. Talk to your boss, your spouse, 2 colleagues at your level, and 3 people you lead about your leadership ability. Ask each of them to rate you on a scale from 1, low, to 10, high, in each of the following areas: people skills, planning and strategic thinking, vision, results. Average the scores and compare them to your own assessment based on these assessments. In your leadership skill, better or worse than is your leadership skill better or worse than you expected? If there is a gap between your assessment and that of others, what do you think is the cause? How willing are you to grow in the area of your leadership?